My sister took the entire family fortune, and I was left with just $1. Don't spend it all at once, they laughed. But when I turned it into millions, they came begging. Hey everyone, before we dive in, I have a quick favor to ask. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, supports the channel, and ensures you never miss out on amazing videos. Alright, let's get started. I posted this on Reddit a week ago in a forum about unfair family stories, and the amount of messages I received was overwhelming. Some people said I made it all up. Others shared similar experiences. But this is real. This is my life. It all started on the day of my grandfather's reading. We gathered at the law office, my mother, my father, my sister Jessica, and me. My brother Ryan didn't even bother to come, since he cared more about his business on the California coast than any family drama. I wasn't expecting much, but at least something symbolic. My grandfather had money, not the kind that put him in magazines for the wealthy, but enough so that none of his children or grandchildren would ever have to worry about money. Except for me, apparently. Jessica will inherit the property in Malibu, the family's bank account, and the company's shares, the attorney read. Silence. And for Emma, the man cleared his throat, she gets $1. I thought it was a mistake. My mother barely looked at me, just sighed uncomfortably. My father, as always, said nothing. And Jessica, she smiled. Well, $1 is still money, she said. And Ryan, who had arrived at the last minute, laughed. Don't spend it all at once, he said, laughing loudly. The others laughed too. At that moment, I said nothing. I just took the envelope with the $1 bill and swallowed every emotion for later. A memory that explains everything. I could say I was surprised, but that would be a lie. My grandfather never really liked me. It wasn't that he was cruel, I just didn't fit into his idea of a good granddaughter. He was the kind of man who always thought he was right, no matter the topic. He knew everything, and the rest of us were just ignorant. Jessica understood this from an early age and knew how to play her role perfectly. She always agreed with him, always said what he wanted to hear. You're right, Grandpa. You're so wise, Grandpa. And he adored her for that. I, on the other hand, had the bad habit of asking questions and refusing to stay silent. I remember a Christmas when I was about 9 years old. We were at his house, and he gave Jessica a huge teddy bear, almost the size of an adult. I got a much smaller box. When I opened it, I found an old dictionary. Smart girls read, he said, barely looking at me. My mother smiled and nudged me lightly, as if telling me to say thank you. Thank you, Grandpa. Don't waste time on nonsense, Emma, he added before turning back to Jessica to ask if she liked her gift. I didn't understand it then, but over the years it became clear. To him, Jessica was the perfect granddaughter because she never contradicted him. I, on the other hand, had too many opinions, and he didn't like that. It wasn't just that one moment, it was everything. If Jessica fell, he would immediately pick her up. If I scraped my knee, he'd tell me not to make a big deal out of it. When Jessica turned 18, he bought her a BMW X5. I had to save up to buy a used twin bike. Over the years, I learned not to expect anything from him. And in the end, that's exactly what he left me. Nothing. After the will reading, no one in my family mentioned it. No calls, no messages, nothing. As if what happened at the law office had never occurred. But I couldn't forget. When I got back to my tiny 300 feet 2 apartment, I threw the envelope with the $1 bill onto the table and just stared at it. Don't spend it all at once, I whispered, imitating Ryan's voice. And there, alone in my tiny place, laughter escaped me. The kind of ugly laugh that comes out when you're on the verge of a breakdown. Because if I didn't laugh, I'd probably cry. It wasn't just about the money. It was the fact that they left me with nothing and didn't even have the decency to pretend they cared. My bank account was in the red. I had no job. No room for mistakes. The job hunt, or how to lose your dignity in a week. I spent the next few days sending out resumes everywhere. Restaurants, stores, offices. It didn't matter where. The job that crushed my dignity. I got a call from Sunset Coffee House for a trial shift. 10-hour shifts, miserable pay, exhausting customers. I accepted without hesitation. On my first day, a group of customers walked in, the kind that looked like they came straight out of a business magazine. Expensive suits, luxury watches, the whole package. They took a seat at the back and started talking loudly about investments, startups, and millions. If a business isn't making at least $20,000 a month, it's not worth it, one of them said, sipping his coffee like it was liquid gold. The problem isn't money, another one replied, scrolling through his phone. The problem is figuring out how to make it work for you. That's when it hit me. Not because I wanted to be like them, but because I didn't have a single dollar working for me. I was the one serving coffee while they talked about business. That night, when I got home, my feet were aching. I collapsed onto my bed, still wearing my work clothes, but instead of falling asleep, I grabbed my laptop and started reading about business. Not because I wanted to be a millionaire. I just wanted to get out of the mess I was in. The first attempt and the first failure. After several nights of reading until dawn, I had an idea. I came across an online course on reselling secondhand items, and I thought, I can do this. I had a few things at home that I didn't use, so I listed them on a resale app. Nothing happened for 3 days. Then a message, is this still available? My fingers trembled as I typed, yes, of course. I sold my first item for $25. It was nothing special, but it was the first time I made money without a boss exploiting me. So I started looking for more things to sell. I went through every closet, every corner of my tiny apartment, but I didn't have much left, so I went to flea markets. I bought an old jacket for $5 and sold it for $30. I bought a purse for $8 and sold it for $50. And that's when I realized something. The problem isn't money. The problem is figuring out how to make it work for you. I realized I could survive without depending on a boss. I just needed to learn how to play the game properly. That was the first piece of the puzzle. But the real change happened later, when the people who laughed at me started noticing I wasn't stuck where they left me. After my first $11,000, everything snowballed. Every month I made more, $2,500, then $55,000, then $88,000. My routine became almost automatic: buy, restore, post, sell. But there was a problem. I was exhausted. Some days I spent 14 hours managing orders, responding to customers, organizing shipments. One afternoon, after answering over 60 messages, my vision blurred. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked like a zombie with dark circles the size of my emotional debt to the therapist I still couldn't afford. Either I hire someone or I'm going to die, I said out loud. I resisted for a few more weeks, but when I started turning down sales because I didn't have time, I knew I needed help. The team that changed everything. First, I hired Hannah, a girl who handled messages and posted listings. Then I hired Dan, who took care of shipments and managed the storage. Next, I brought in Jake, who had connections with suppliers and got us exclusive products. And finally, Megan, who had experience in digital marketing and helped me scale everything 3 times faster. In 4 months, I went from working alone to leading a team of 6 employees. Now, we weren't just selling on resale platforms. We opened our own online store. We paid for ads, optimized shipping, negotiated with larger suppliers. The result? Our revenue tripled. Opening a physical store, the big leap. The online store was already generating more than $30,000 a month. But it wasn't enough. I wanted more. I had been thinking about opening a physical store for months. Selling online was great, but there were products that people wanted to see and touch before buying. I needed a physical space. I spent weeks looking for locations. Some were too expensive. Others were in areas with no foot traffic. Until I found the right one. It was a small place, but well located. The rent was nearly $3,000 a month, but that didn't worry me anymore. When I signed the lease, I felt a mix of panic and excitement. I was investing $50,000 to set it up. It was crazy, but it was my kind of crazy. The grand opening. On opening day, I had no idea if anyone would show up. But people came, a lot of them. Customers from the online store, people who had seen the ads, curious passersby. We made nearly $8,000 in sales on the first day. That night, after closing up, I stood alone in the store looking around and thought, Grandpa George would be rolling in his grave if he knew this. Because yes, in the end, I built a real business. And not just any business, one that was already making more than $50,000 a month. The family starts smelling the money. I hadn't spoken to my family in almost a year. After the will reading, I simply disappeared. But one day, after an article about my store was published in a business magazine, I received a message from my mother, Susan. Sweetheart, it makes me so happy to see that you're doing well. We hadn't heard from you. Why don't you come over for dinner with the family? Of course they hadn't heard from me, until my name appeared in the press. 2 days later, Jessica texted me. OMG, I saw your store. Congrats, I always knew you'd go far. Hey, we should meet up. I have an idea that might interest you. I always knew you'd go far. Really? Because the last time I saw her, she was laughing at the fact that I got left with $1 in the inheritance, and it didn't stop there. The following week, my father called. Sweetheart, we've been thinking. Your business is growing, and, well, families should always support each other. Maybe we could help you with management. Translation. They wanted a piece of it. The next day, another message from Ryan. Hey Em, how's everything? I have a friend who might be interested in investing in your business. You should think about it. We're family after all. Oh right, we're family. A few days later, my mother showed up at the store unannounced. Emma, her voice sounded fake, too enthusiastic. I'm so happy to see you. What do you want, Mom? I asked bluntly. She acted offended. How can you say that? I just came to see how you're doing and to tell you that I've been thinking, maybe it's time for you to come back to the family. Come back to the family? I repeated. After you all left me with just $1? Oh, sweetheart, don't see it that way, she sighed. Your grandfather had his way of doing things, but what matters is that we can start fresh now. Starting over? Starting over, yes. Look, Jessica and Ryan talked to a financial advisor, and they think the best thing would be to divide the business among the 4 of us. The 4 of us? Well, yes. It's just that we helped you get here. I laughed in her face. You helped me? Well, she clearly wasn't expecting me to say that. Mom, when I was washing dishes at a coffee shop just to survive, where were you? When you all laughed in my face over the will, who helped me? She had no answer. I'm sorry, but this business is mine. She fell silent. Then she pressed her lips together and said the line I had been waiting for. You've become so selfish. I crossed my arms. I'm not selfish. I'm just not stupid anymore. It wasn't enough that they laughed at me when I was left with just $1. It wasn't enough that they ignored me when I was scrubbing dishes for minimum wage. No, now that my business was making more than $50,000 a month, suddenly we were family again. And of course they thought they were entitled to a share. The first attack, emotional manipulation. After my mother's little visit to the store, I thought they'd drop the subject, but no. Ryema, think about it. It doesn't make sense for you to handle everything alone. We're your siblings. We've always been a team. Always. The last time we were a team was when I was 10 years old, and he forced me to give him my savings so he could buy a video game. Sweetheart, I don't want you to think we're pressuring you, but families should support each other. You can't be so resentful. Your grandfather hurt you, but we didn't they? They were the ones who laughed in my face at the will reading. They were the ones who did nothing when Jessica took everything. Can we talk in person? I don't want you to misunderstand our intentions. Their intentions were crystal clear. They wanted me to disappear, just like they did when I had nothing, but they weren't going to take no for an answer. The second attempt, the family business trap. A week later, my mother insisted that I come over for dinner. I don't know why I went. Maybe deep down, I was still curious about how far they'd actually go. When I arrived, they were already seated at the table. Jessica, Ryan, my parents. They even brought a lawyer. Emma, my mother, started pouring me wine like this was a normal family dinner. We know how hard you've worked to build your business. Thanks for noticing, I said with a sarcastic smile. But we've been thinking, my father chimed in, using his business voice. It would be a good idea to formalize everything and turn it into a family company. A family company, I repeated. Yes, Ryan said, with a fake politeness that made me want to throw up. Something more structured. Now that the business is stable, we can help you with management, growth, investments. Jessica cleared her throat and slid a document across the table. This is a proposal to turn your business into a family corporation, she explained, as if she were doing me a favor. That way we could all contribute and have a fair share. I raised an eyebrow. Fair? The offer made me laugh. Well, yes, Jessica continued. You'd have 40% since you started it, but the other 60% would be split between Mom, Dad, Ryan, and me. I burst out laughing. A real laugh. Wait, you're telling me that you, who haven't done a single thing, get to take 60% of my business just because we share a last name? Don't see it that way, Em, Jessica smiled. We're doing this for the good of everyone. For the good of everyone, I repeated. Ryan crossed his arms, shifting into an aggressive stance. You can't handle this alone. Sooner or later, you'll need support. It's better if we team up now than for you to end up selling to strangers later. My father nodded. If you think about it, it's a smart strategy. It keeps the business in the family. My mother sighed, putting on her I say this for your own good face. We can't stay divided, Emma. It's time for you to think about the family. There it was, the magic phrase. Think about the family. Family is the most important thing, said by the same people who abandoned me when I needed them the most. I took the document, skimmed through it, and then, looking them straight in the eyes, I ripped it to shreds. My answer is no. Jessica rolled her eyes. Emma, for God's sake, don't be childish. Childish? Childish was what you all did when you left me with $1 just to laugh in my face. Ryan slammed his fist on the table. You always have to play the victim. I'm not a victim, Ryan. I'm the only person at this table who actually worked for something. My father rubbed his temples, trying to contain his frustration. Sweetheart, don't turn this into a fight. I'm not fighting. I just have no interest in sharing my business with a family that never believed in me. Silence. For the first time, I saw panic in their eyes. They didn't expect me to say no. My mother went for one last cheap shot. Sweetheart, we raised you. We gave you everything. I leaned toward her. You gave me nothing, Mom. From as far back as I can remember, I've earned everything on my own. I stood up, grabbed my purse, and headed for the door. Emma, my father called out in a firm voice. Don't be stupid. This is an opportunity. I turned back just for one final blow. Yes, an opportunity for you, because I don't need you. And I walked out. The third attack, the ultimate betrayal. I thought that was the end of it, but no. 2 weeks later, I got an urgent call from my lawyer. Lawyer, Emma, we need to talk. Your family is trying to register a business under your company's name. I froze. Lawyer, they've submitted paperwork to open a business with a name almost identical to yours. If you don't act fast, they could steal your customers and damage your reputation. So that was plan B. If they couldn't take my business legally, they were going to SN me, leaving me no choice but to accept their help. They had declared war. But what they didn't know was that I was ready to fight. They tried to manipulate me with the excuse of family. They tried to take my business with contracts and lawyers. And when that didn't work, they tried to steal my name. But they made one mistake. They underestimated me. Counterattack. If you want to play dirty, get ready. After the call with my lawyer, the first thing I did was legally protect my business. I registered the trademark, brand rights, and filed an injunction to block any attempt by my family to operate under a similar name. The next day, Jessica called me. Jessica, you're overreacting. What we did is completely legal. You tried to steal my company's name, Jessica. Jessica, it's not yours. You didn't patent it before. Besides, we're family. We could have come to an agreement without lawyers. I laughed. You know what's funny? That before my business was successful, none of you cared at all. Silence. Jessica, we just want everyone to win. Win? After you tried to take 60% of my company? Jessica, don't see it that way, Em. We just want what's best for you. What's best for me is for you to disappear. I hung up, but this wasn't over yet. The fall of the perfect family. In less than a month, my family got into a bigger mess than they ever imagined. Because I didn't just register the trademark, I also sued them for business fraud. When Ryan tried to open bank accounts for their new business, the banks blocked everything. When Jessica tried to attract customers using my reputation, she got sued for brand infringement. And the best part? When they tried to apply for a loan to fund their business, they got rejected. Because the whole family was drowning in debt. Yes, in debt, because while I was working to build something from nothing, they were burning through the inheritance like there was no tomorrow. Sweetheart, this has gone too far. We can't let the family fall apart over something so silly. Emma, negotiate with us. Don't be selfish. Ryan, you've turned into a horrible person, but when all of this blows over, you're going to need family. Don't forget that. Sure. Meanwhile, I opened my third store. I was featured in a television interview. I was invited to a young entrepreneurs event, and every time my name was mentioned in public, my family seethed with rage, knowing there was nothing they could do to stop me. The final blow. Karma always comes around. I didn't see my family again for almost a year, the sweetest victory. One morning, I walked into a cafe, and in the back I saw Jessica arguing with a lawyer. I approached, just out of curiosity. Hey, Jessica. She looked up and went pale as a ghost. What are you doing here? She spat. Having a coffee. You? She didn't answer, but I saw the papers on the table. A foreclosure notice. That's when I understood everything. They had lost everything. I leaned in with a smile. Shame the family didn't know how to support each other, huh? Her glare could have killed me if looks had that power. I turned around and walked away, savoring the sweetest victory of my life. They left me with $1. I left them with nothing. Final update. Responding to comments and what I really feel about all this, I didn't expect my story to blow up on Reddit the way it did. Honestly, I posted it because I needed to vent, because I'm still processing everything that happened, and wow, I got a lot of responses. Some comments were supportive, from people who had been through similar situations and understood what it's like to be the discarded one in the family. Others were harsher. You're bitter. Family is family no matter what. God, if I had $1 for every time someone told me this, I'd have another store by now. This idea that family must be untouchable no matter how much they hurt you is what keeps so many people trapped in toxic relationships. They left me with nothing. They laughed in my face, they saw me struggling, and they didn't care. But the moment they saw me succeeding, suddenly they showed up. Not out of love, not because they cared, but because they wanted something. So no, I didn't owe them anything. You were cruel too. You destroyed your own family. I'm going to be honest. Yes, I enjoyed watching them fall. When I saw Jessica with those foreclosure papers, when I realized her arrogance had turned into desperation, I felt something. I won't deny satisfaction, because it wasn't accidental. They dug their own graves. Am I a bad person for laughing in her face? Maybe. But if anyone tells me that in my place, they would have been a saint and reached out a helping hand after everything, they're lying. But that doesn't mean there isn't a part of me that still feels something. At the end of the day, they're still your parents. Still your siblings. Are you really going to live with this hatred forever? This is the one that made me think the most. Because believe it or not, I don't hate my family. Sometimes I wake up at night and wonder what if things had been different. Sometimes I catch myself remembering the good moments. A vacation when I was a kid, my mother brushing my hair before school, the time Ryan defended me on the playground. Do those memories disappear just because of what they did? No. They're still my family. And as much as it hurts, I know that at some point I'll have to see them again. Maybe at my mother's funeral. Maybe when one of them, broken by life, knocks on my door asking for help. And I don't know what I'll do when that moment comes. I don't know if I'll be able to give them another chance, or if I'll simply close the door. I don't know if I'll ever be able to sit down to eat with them without feeling anger for everything they did to me. The only thing I do know is that for the first time in my life, the decision will be mine. And that at least gives me peace. Thank you all for reading and for your comments, good or bad. I don't know what the future holds, but for now, I'm going to keep doing what I do best, being the owner of my own life.